An issue so divisive it has upended an entire community. Protests on both sides, mostly peaceful, although some not. And all because of this, a former hotel less than a mile from the centre of town being used as a so-called asylum hotel. But no more. In Epping this evening, the decision that will no longer be the case, and some people felt for them it was a celebration. The flashpoint for unease. Last month, the alleged sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl in which an asylum seeker from Ethiopia was charged. He's currently awaiting trial after denying the charges. And the catalyst for protests, not just in Epping, but in places across the country, including in Norwich and London. There have been reports in Essex of asylum seekers chased down the road, and security measures have been put in place for protection of staff and those staying here. The Bell Hotel in Epping, well, it's no longer a hotel anymore, and the sign outside is the only clue of what it used to be. But the government has previously said that it will not stop its use as a so-called asylum hotel. Next door, some neighbours said the whole saga had disrupted their lives. And so the local council went for the back door to seek just that, saying the hotel had breached planning rules by becoming a site for migrant accommodation instead of being used as an actual hotel, without the owner seeking planning permission for that change of use. But drama in court today as the Home Office made an 11th hour bid to intervene, saying if an injunction was granted by the court, it would impact on the Home Secretary's statutory duties. The judge rejected that, and the decision was made that the Bell, as a place for asylum seekers to stay, would close. Everyone must leave by the 12th of September, a decision that will likely have repercussions across the country, effectively upending the use of so-called asylum hotels in local communities.
The use of the Bell Hotel was always considered by ourselves not to be a suitable location. And we warned the government of that, we warned the last government of that, and we were found to be correct. So yes, of course, we only ask that Epping Forest is treated fairly and decently.
In Epping, there are what the council describe as unauthorised flags lining the high street, and division, deep division.
We all want them gone. We don't want them around here.
I don't really think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think they should let them in. I think they're allowed to be there. I think we should take care of people that are struggling or that need help, 100%.
What do you think of the decision today then?
I don't agree with it.
I think it would be lovely not to have the demonstrations anymore, but I quite understand it. But yeah, it's been a bit crazy.
The Home Office said it would carefully consider the decision and would not be commenting any further for now. This may be just a small corner of England, but what's happened here has big consequences for how the rest of the country deals with what's become a contentious issue. Ultimately, today's decision could impact the futures of those seeking protection here, but the Bell for now will no longer be part of that journey. So you can see behind me at the moment we've got a gathering of quite a few people here. I'd say around 50 people at the moment, and they're carrying union flags and so on and talking, and there are cars going past beeping their horns. This evening we've had some political reaction as well. So Reform UK leader Nigel Farage hailed the High Court decision as a victory. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch suggested people housed here should be moved out immediately. And the government, for its part, said that it continues to work to close all so-called asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament. Anyway, it said that was always the plan, but it's likely that the Home Office could look to try to overturn this decision in some way or challenge this decision in some way. Now, over the past few weeks, we've also seen counter-protests across the road, with some people saying that this whole issue has been used as a vehicle for the far right. People here this evening say that's absolutely not the case. They say that they've wanted this decision to happen since 2020, really, when the hotel first came into use as a so-called asylum hotel. So for them, this is the decision they say that they wanted.
Francis, thanks very much indeed. Watch out for those firecrackers behind you. Now, we asked the Home Office for an interview, but nobody was available. But joining me now is Enver Solomon, the Refugees Council's Chief Executive. Enver Solomon, good to have you back on the programme. What's your reaction to the High Court's temporary injunction?
Well, look, nobody wants hotels. I don't want hotels. Many of the electorate don't want hotels. Politicians of all colours don't want hotels. They cost millions of pounds a day. The people in those hotels, and remember who they are. They've come from countries like Sudan that are ravaged by civil war. They don't want to be in them because they know they're a target and they feel very scared, very anxious, very intimidated by the protests. And understandably, locals feel aggrieved too. So what the government needs to do is, instead of saying that we'll move out of hotels by 2029, they need to move much more quickly. We need a fundamental reform of the asylum accommodation system, and it needs to happen rapidly in collaboration with local councils, because hotels have become a flashpoint for community tensions and they are destabilising and they need to be stopped used. We need to stop using them very quickly.
Right. Now, of course, as you may have heard, 12 councils have now lined up to make a similar appeal and hope for a similar ruling. So this thing is clearly going to be catching on at the local level. Where will you put all these people? Where will the government put all these people?
Well, look, let's remember that there already are very close to 70,000 places in the asylum accommodation system. The reason why we've got hotels is the last government created a system meltdown. It created this huge backlog in the system. And if people are moving through the system and decisions are made in a timely manner, we shouldn't have to use any hotels. So what the government needs to do is it needs to take a large proportion of people out of the asylum system very quickly. And it could do that because there are many people in the asylum system who will be granted protection in the UK because they are here as refugees. If you gave them permission to be here, then you could move many people through the system very quickly, and decisions need to be made more rapidly. At the same time, if someone's case is manifestly unfounded, then that decision needs to be taken quickly. At the moment, the government is moving through in the ordinary way. It needs to create new mechanisms to make decisions far more quickly than is happening at the moment.
Of course, the government says it has considerably sped up the process and is processing many more people than the previous government did, which still leaves an awful lot of people in hotels. Just from their perspective, if you are in one of these hotels, you've escaped civil war in Somalia or in Sudan, how does it make you feel to be suddenly kicked out?
Well, look, we work with people in the asylum system. They are scared. They are very anxious. We were working in the Roberton hotel a year ago that was firebombed. People were almost burned out of their rooms in that hotel. There's a lot of fear in the asylum system. We hear a lot, understandably, from communities across the country that are concerned, but we shouldn't forget that the people in those hotels are men, women and children. They are like us and they have lives too, and for them this is terrifying, and they have a right to have their case heard. And refugees have come to this country for decades. We've always recognised that some will have to take a dangerous journey, and they need to be given the opportunity to have their case heard and move on and rebuild their lives.
But we also know that not just in Britain, but all over Europe, the question of asylum seekers, of what to do about immigration, is politically explosive. And, as you saw with the demonstrators in Epping, they're wearing, the flag of St. George, they're wearing the Union Jack. It's become an issue of national identity. I mean, what does one do about that? It's gone to a different level, hasn't it?
It has. So first of all, we need to dial down the rhetoric, because fanning the flames of division, which I think is happening by some politicians, mainstream politicians, is not helpful. Secondly, we need to understand why people are concerned. And often the grievance is about the predicament in their local communities. It's not simply about asylum hotels. It's about the fact that they feel their communities have been forgotten. There's been a lack of investment, a lack of support for families to move their lives forward. That absolutely needs to be addressed by the government, because unless we address the root causes, then people who have come from other places will always be the scapegoat, will always be the target of people's fears and anxieties. And at the same time, we need to recognise that refugees have come to this country and they've contributed. They've gone on to make incredible contributions in the NHS, working in our high streets, in businesses. And if we tell those stories more and overcome the division and build a deeper understanding amongst communities, I think we can move forward.
Okay, going to leave it there. Enver Solomon, thank you very much indeed.